My name is Ashton McMahon, and I'm going to be talking about music, the natural drug. So what if I told you that I think the effects of music are similar to the effects that drugs have on the user? Similar to drugs, music can act as a depressor, can act as a stimulant, and it can really touch all the moods, similar to how drugs is used in a lot of different circumstances, right? A lot of times you fall back on music to take you to a different place so you can put everything you're feeling aside at the moment. And so today when I'm talking about music, I want you to hold on to a couple different things, right? So being able to play music, first of all, enhances your self-confidence, right? It enables you to go in different situations with a different state of mind. It allows you to believe more in yourself. And the next part I want you to remember as I'm talking is really one of the more important things to me is the fact that when you play music, it gives joy to everybody around you, which then gives joy to the musician. And the last point, which is what we're talking about first, is the fact that it creates an escape for the musician playing, right? Similar to how drugs takes you to a different place. And so, right, so this might sound like an odd comparison to you, right? Drugs, music, where's the connection? Well, really it comes down to why would you take drugs versus why would you, per se, play music, right? And so, first we're going to take some of the reasons people do drugs. And these are taken straight from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, right, U.S. government website. And these are some of the proven main reasons that they do drugs. The first reason is often sadness, right? You want to escape, or maybe you want to release or vent through the drugs, right? It's going to take you a different place, and it's going to provide a way for you to feel anything but that sadness at that immediate moment. The next point a lot of people do it is eagerness to feel emotion, right? If you're bored or you don't have anything else to do, we'll take some drugs and you'll be on a completely different planet within a couple minutes. All right, and the last point that a lot of people do drugs for is the exact opposite of that, which is to let off emotion. A lot of people, whether they're feeling angry or they're upset, or even on the other side, right, they're happy, they're in a certain mood that drugs will either enhance or it'll take them away from it. And so those are the three main reasons that people take drugs. And the next part that you gotta look at is why people do music, right? You can compare them. Well, I've been playing piano since I was in kindergarten, 7 years old, and I've been playing guitar for 4 or 5 years now. And so I'm gonna tell you some of the reasons that I personally, play music. So some of the reasons that I play music, first of all, outside of the norm, would be if I'm feeling sad. It's an escape or release to take me to a different place. I know that if I'm in my feelings, right, I can sit down on that bench and for at least a half an hour, right, I can take myself to a different place and come back to the problems later. The next reason is I'm bored, right? I have nothing better to do, well, why not play music, you know? It'll only make me more creative in the long run. The next reason is whether I'm angry or upset, or on the flip side, if I'm happy or have inspiration. Right? Again, it's the same point as sadness, where it can take me to a different place, an escape, or if I'm happy to have inspiration, well, then I'm just happy to express myself through the piano. And so, when you look at the similarities between these two things, right, it's almost a mirror image, right? Sadness is very obvious. Eagerness to feel emotion and bored, they kind of go hand in hand with each other, you could say. When you're bored, you want to feel something, right? And the similar thing with the angry and upset, and the fact that you want to let off emotion to go to a different place at that moment in time. And so, for some of you who maybe you're looking at this, right, and I'm hoping this is a small percentage of you, you're looking at this and you're like, music is difficult. Drugs are not as difficult. So if I want to feel these things, I should probably just do drugs. And then I would say to you that you're insane, but the reasoning for this, the reasoning you should pick music over drugs is that music won't get you killed or in jail, right? I just have to throw that out there for those of you who won't see this quite as obviously. But there are some other reasons you should do music instead of drugs too. And a major benefit of music is that it's more likely to impress other people when you play music other than doing drugs. And the reason I bring this up is because a lot of reasons people do drugs is peer pressure, or a feeling that I have to do this to fit in, or I want to feel cool. And so I'm here to tell you that music when you get older and as an adult is way cooler and impressive to the right people than drugs are. And I'm going to tell you a story here about a time where I felt quote unquote cool for playing music. It was a couple years back. We were going camping at a state park, and it was dreadful weather, right? So it was snowing, but it wasn't like that snow. It was like that rain/snow, like that 30-degree weather, like it's raining, but it's free. It's like the worst. If you're from Michigan, you understand. And so there was this lodge, right? And this lodge is it's a nice place. Here, actually, I have a picture of it, right? So it's a pretty big room, right? And off to the back here, there's a restaurant, and over here is another room. But most importantly, right here along this back wall right here is a piano. And when we walked in there, there's maybe 2 or 3 families in there just kind of chilling, right? It's like 2 or 3 in the afternoon where people are doing stuff. And so we walk in, there's like a brother and a sister playing like Super Mario Bros. On the piano. Nothing too crazy, just having a little bit of fun. And my dad told me that I should go play piano. And I was like, maybe not right now. Like, I just wasn't feeling it at the moment. He's like, all right. So we actually sat at this table right here. And we played, a couple games. We played Settlers, we played Rook. I think we played a little bit of Risk. Just normal games you get to play. And it was about 5 or 6, right? We've been playing games for a while. And it was time for dinner, so we're gonna go eat at that restaurant in the back. And my dad was like, so before we go eat, in order for you to get your food, you're gonna go play some piano. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna play piano, I'll play some piano. So I got up, I went to the piano, and I turned around, and I looked back in the room, and it was packed. Every seat was taken, right? This is when people are starting to go for restaurants. So there was a line out the back, people to get into the restaurant, being absolutely packed. The other room was full. We're talking like 50 or 60 people, and I was like, I was playing piano in front of a bunch of people, right? And so I played piano, and the more pieces I played, the more confident I got, the more difficult pieces I played, and really it was just a great experience, right? And people would clap after every piece that I played. They would ask me like what music was I playing, like they were interested because it sounded nice. And the reason that I'm telling you this story, it was a great experience, is that when you get farther along in life, people are going to find music a lot more impressive than drugs. I know that sounds like a long story to tell you that drugs aren't very impressive, but that's what the story is about. And like, if I would have gotten up from that table, took a bag out of my pocket and been like, LSD, I think all of you should take it. It's good for you. I know it's illegal. Hear me out. Makes you feel great though. I would have gotten a very different response. Probably would have gotten maybe the cops called, underage and illegal substance. Doesn't mix well. So it was overall better experience that I knew music than that I knew drugs. And so my next point that we're going to talk about is similar to this. How does you playing piano make others feel? And look, I love making people happy. Like, I'm not a people pleaser. I wouldn't go so far to make myself not happy to make others happy. But I'll say a joke and I'll butt in, intercede with like a little quirky joke, to make people happy, right? And when you're performing, you're going to be performing in front of 3 different types of groups of people. And the first group, I think, is the easiest and the friendliest environment is simply your family. When you play in front of your family, it doesn't have to be very complicated. It can be super simple. And really, as long as it resembles a song, they can be like, oh, I know that song. They're going to love it, right? They're going to clap. They're going to support you. They're going to be like, encore, encore, right? They're going to whistle at you. It's going to be a great experience. And that's the easiest environment, really, to play in. The next environment I want to talk about, which is one of my favorite, is playing in front of the elderly. And they're like, the elderly, what are the elderly? Well, it's proven that it's actually beneficial to you, right? It's beneficial for the elderly to listen to your music. There's research done on it at the University of Massachusetts and the University of South Florida, proving that the playing live music for the elderly helps them physically, mentally, and their social well-being, right? It makes them feel a part of something, and it makes them feel more connected to this earth, because they're drifting off, right? They're getting older, they're losing friends, they're losing family, and so for them to listen to live music, it actually is good for them on so many different levels. And from my experience, I play a lot of Christmas music at nursing homes, And when I play there, they get so into it, right? They love it so much. And one story that I'm going to tell you is about a guy, and he rolled his weird chill up to the piano, and while I was playing, every time that I hit a good riff, or maybe it was one of his favorite Christmas songs, and I'd finish a good chorus, or I'd finish a verse that he knew that I performed perfectly, he'd be like, there it is, like, there it is. He was just, he got so into it, and he loved it. And that's the environment that most elderly and nursing home experiences provides, is that feeling of support, and it really just makes them happy, right? And that comes back to you making people happy, which in turn makes you happy. And there's actually a study done at UC Berkeley, and Alex Dixon wrote a document about it, or an article, if you will, about how creating happiness in others ultimately is one of the most fulfilling things in creating happiness in yourself. And so that is one of my favorite environments to play in. And the last environment that you're going to find yourself playing in is in front of strangers. And this is by far the most difficult one. They don't owe anything to you. They don't need to hear your music. And so for you to impress them, it has to really be impressive. So this is the part where it does get to the point where you have to play something a little more sophisticated in order to garner their attention. But when you do, and you perform it well, and you perform it confidently, it really is something that can bring people together who normally wouldn't have any other similarities or reasons to assimilate with each other. And so countless studies have been done, and this can be backed up by another document posted by UC Berkeley, written by Jill Suddy, the fact that music increases connectedness between people who otherwise wouldn't have any similarities. And so playing in front of strangers can be very rewarding, even if it is more difficult than playing in front of these others too. And so, real quick, I want to recap what we've been over so far. And so far, we've talked about how music makes yourself feel, right? It affects you kind of like drugs, right? It really can help you fend off sadness. It can help you with boredom, and it can really get you excited or take you to a different state of mind when you're angry or have upset emotions. And the other thing we've talked about, which you just talked about, is the fact that music, it affects all different types, groups of people, and it really can bring happiness to you through bringing happiness to the audience. And so, now that you know all of this, it doesn't have to be difficult, right? So when you say you want to go play in front of people, right? And I want you to visualize it, right? It doesn't have to be difficult. So when you're going out to play in front of people, my advice to you, I have two things, really, where if you really knock out these two things, I think that your piece or whatever you're playing, whatever instrument, doesn't have to be piano, that's just what I use, it could really bring joy to other people. And the first thing is that it should be a known song, right? And this is just a rule of thumb. Like it's not a set in stone. Like they're not gonna like it if they don't know it. But if you play something that you wrote or that people don't know, you have to knock it out of the park, and it has to be performed at such a high level, at such a complex, sophisticated level for them to appreciate it if they don't know it yet. So really, at this point, if they know it, they have something to connect to, something to relate to, and something that they can turn to their head and like, oh hey, I know that song, right? And so the second piece of advice that I would give you is to have little or no mistakes. And the reason I say this is when you listen to, maybe it's the most complex song ever, right? It's one of the most complicated, it's Beethoven, maybe it's like Moonlight Sonata, right? But you have mistakes all over the place, right? You're messing up here, messing up there, you're having to go back, play it again. People aren't gonna like that as much as a super simple, like, ode to joy, but you don't make any mistakes. That's what catches people's eyes and attention, is when you don't mess up. And so if you really want to knock a piece out of the park, you should play something that is known and play something that is little to no mistakes. That's really what's going to be people like, oh, this guy's got something going for him, right? And so I want you to imagine. I want you to imagine that you go out to a bar or a restaurant with maybe your friend, maybe you're at college, right? And you go out to a bar with your college Friday night. It's a normal thing, do it every week. And there's a piano there. And you decide that you're gonna go play the piano, right? You have maybe one or two good songs you memorize and you play them, right? maybe you only play one piece, the other one you didn't feel confident. You played that one piece, but you knocked it out of the park, right? You absolutely killed it. This is gonna do a couple things for you, right? So first, this is gonna really impress people. People are gonna turn heads. You're gonna be like, "Who is this guy?" Because you have to realize how unique it is to be able to go at any given place and knock a musical piece out of the park, right? If you think back to your friend groups, how many people do you know outside of maybe band? I don't know that outside of a band, how many people do you know that really just they know music and they can play something great at any given moment in time, right? So this is gonna impress people, turn your heads. This is really gonna do wonders for your confidence, right? First, it takes confidence to go up to the piano and just play it. But then once you kill a piece, right, you're gonna double down back on that confidence, and you won't be shy anymore. You'll be known as that guy, right? And I want you to just try and imagine the feeling of knocking a piece out of the park in front of a bunch of people that you don't really know. And some of them you might know, but there is no other feeling similar to this. And this isn't just for music, it's for performing anything, so maybe dancing, per se. And it's unique to the situation where you're performing something in front of people that you might not really even know. And so I hope that this visualization has helped you kind of feel or imagine what it would feel like to play in this kind of situation. But I would encourage you to try and actually do it, right? So I would encourage you to take up an instrument. And I'm not saying that it has to be piano or guitar. Those are just the ones that I use because I play those instruments, so it's easy for me to tell you stories about those. But it could be any instrument. Now, I wouldn't go out and try and do the oboe. I would actually recommend a piano or guitar. Those are the simplest, and those translate to a lot of different things. So once you learn those, you can learn other instruments. And there's more tutorials about those two instruments anywhere, and there's teachers you can learn about those. But I would try and learn something, because there's nothing wrong, nothing bad can come from learning these things, right? This would provide an escape. It provides you something to do with your time. There's nothing bad about it. And another main point about this is don't do drugs. Bad. Shouldn't do it. So yeah, those are my final words of wisdom. I hope you enjoyed. I really hope that you learned something from this. And I want to thank you for listening, and I want you to have a blessed day.